Well, Rob, just days away now from the opening game of the season, Sale at home. Your thoughts ahead of it all?
Well, looking forward to it. You know, it's what it's all about. It's kind of exciting and nerve-wracking and wonderful and horrible, and you know, everything at the same time. You know, that's what it's all about. But you know, I'm not going to get tired of saying we worked extremely hard to get to this point. You know, getting in the Premiership was a fantastic thing for us to achieve. What we've done in the last couple of years has been great and been great to be part of. And we've got to work extremely hard to make sure that we continue our journey in the Premiership. You know, this is what rugby's all about in England. We're doing okay, and as I say, we've got to keep our feet on the ground and keep working hard and keep our core values strong. And build, you know, look to build a nice foundation for the season again, as we have done in other years.
Pre-season's gone really well and to plan, as you said, coming in on the back of a good win at Glasgow last week.
Yeah, it was tough at Glasgow. Real test of character. Exactly what we needed, really. I think the games here, you know, at home on a nice surface, and it's all quite no travelling, and it's nice and comfortable, and you can just kind of get on with it. And I think sometimes you forget that rugby's a lot more than that. It's you know, it's about, as I say, it's about character. It's about testing yourself against 15 other guys, and we did that extremely well up at Glasgow. You know, in difficult conditions, a lot of travelling. A different place to play than we've been used to for a couple of years, and we got on with it, and we just played good, tough rugby. We weren't perfect, but our attitude came through, and in the end we probably should have won by another 10 or 15 points than we did, because of the control we had in the game, and we didn't concede a try, which, you know, against a good attacking side is great credit to the guys.
You've obviously introduced a load of new faces over the summer into the squad, and that they've integrated well, but this weekend's squad will have a more familiar look to it. A lot of players that you know are tried and trusted at this level. Yeah,
and I think but it's primarily because they performed well at Glasgow. You know, we were a little bit rusty against Connacht. A couple of guys obviously held their hand up against Pirates and have forced their way into the reckoning and are around now. But you know, I take selection very much week by week in a lot of ways. You perform, and you know, we look after you, and we think you deserve to play again. If you don't, and other guys are playing well in A-League games or the games in between, you know, they're going to be pushing. And like I say, there's no secret how we select here. You know, the players' performances pick the team, and that's what we'll continue to do.
You've had some humdinger of ties against Sale in the past. Now, I know you had a close look at them last week. What are you expecting from them?
Oh, it's obviously going to be tough. You know, they're a team like ourselves. Had a good second half of the season, and they've qualified for the Heineken Cup. They brought in a new head coach. They brought in some new quality players, and they're an ambitious team. So, as you say, we've always had tough fixtures for them. I think there's only been one fixture where, you know, with actually any time left on the clock, we felt okay, which was the home game here last year, where, you know, we got a few points in the lead, and it was nice to finish without it being an absolute nail biter. But other than that, they've always all been tight games. But that's what the Premiership is about. There's going to be a lot of games like that, and you just have to keep playing well. You have to keep it cool, and keep building pressure. And sometimes you'll come through, sometimes you won't. But you just have to work to be very, very competitive. That's what we're aiming to do against Sale. We're going to aim to be very, very competitive, and we'll see what comes.
The first 2 years you've got off to real good starts in the division. Is that a key ingredient again this year, do you feel?
Well, I'm not going to say yes, I'm not going to say no. You know, obviously getting off to a flyer was great, and it takes a bit of pressure off yourselves. But at the same time, you know, especially if you look at when we collected points last year, there's a lot of points to be collected in relatively short runs of games around Christmas. You know, when I think we won 6 out of 7, and all of a sudden, you know, our points total is flying. So you can pick them up at other times of the season, and you know, it's not the end of the world if you're not winning in the first week or two. You know, as an example, I think Saracens lost their first game last year, Wasps won it, and they have 2 entirely different seasons. So it's not all or nothing, but it does, I think, a good level of performance gives you a nice foundation to work from, and that's the important thing, to look out there and see most of the things we're working on with this group of players are good, and we can build on that week on week. In your programme notes you mentioned about how Sandy Park and the crowd can play their part for a season. They've been phenomenal for the last 2 years. Hopefully more of the same? Well, you know, I am a big believer in that the crowd and the players should be in it together, but it only works if A, you know, your supporters want to get involved, but B, you know, the players have to show that it means a lot to them. You know, it's by playing in an emotional and passionate way that you drag your support into the game with you. You know, I'd like to think that our supporters like to come to Sandy Park because they like to live a game of rugby with the players on the pitch. Now that's a big responsibility for the players to make sure they perform in a way that that makes it obvious, and makes it obvious that as a supporter I want to stay and I want to get involved and I want to come next week. And you know, we've gone on quite a long journey together, a number of the supporters at this club and the players, and you know, it's our responsibility to make sure that journey kind of continues in a very good manner for those people.
The first 2 years have been tough, but do you see this one as being the toughest campaign yet, with the Heineken Cup added into it?
In some ways yes, but then at other times, you know, I think we're learning all the time. You know, the first thing I said when we got the Premiership was that we'd improve as players, as management and as a team and as a club with the experience. Now we're gathering some of that experience and we've got to make sure that counts for something. But at the same time, you know, there's some interesting challenges. There's a lot of changes in a lot of teams this year, and there's a few unknown quantities. You know, we're probably less of an unknown quantity than some other teams this year, which feels a bit strange. But we've also seen how you can use that to your advantage. So you know, we'll just attack every game as it comes. We won't change anything we're doing. As I say, as long as we're competitive every week, we'll take what comes and we'll build a good season on the back of that. Okay.